Hi everyone. Do you know? One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to reach their education and career goals is failing to truly explore and research the career paths they plan to pursue. Some of the obvious questions you should ask yourself are, does the career path fit your personality? Would doing this job, day in and day out, make you happy? Is the typical salary enough to reach my income goals? How much schooling will I need, and what kind of time and costs am I willing to commit to my education? The more difficult questions, that only experts and individuals in the field of psychology can answer, are addressed in our extensive list of psychology careers below. Be sure to read our career descriptions, expert interviews, and step-by-step instructions on how to obtain licensure in your state, before you take the next step towards your career. 1. Child psychologist. What is childhood psychology? A person's childhood is often a very simple yet complicated time. It is also a very influential time in a person's life, and most people's childhoods will have a big impact on the type of adult they turn out to be later in life. Childhood psychology is a specialized branch of traditional psychology that focuses on children, mainly their development and behavior. It is one of the most commonly studied types of psychology. Today, this type of psychology typically covers every child, from birth to adolescence. Some areas covered under childhood psychology include milestones, behavior problems, social skills, mental and emotional well-being and development. 2. Clinical psychologist. What is clinical psychologist? Clinical psychologists are the psychologists in charge of analyzing, identifying, treating, and preventing mental disorders and issues. Don't mistake them for medical doctors, as they can't prescribe medical treatment in most of the country. Instead, they work in private practice, or state-run hospitals, or in an academic environment, and study psychological disorders such as schizophrenia and depression. Their job is to help their patients identify, understand, and treat both common and serious mental disorders. 3. Community psychologist. What is a community psychologist? Community psychologists have the unique job of studying, researching, understanding, and analyzing the relationships of people with their immediate and broader communities. They try to understand the reasoning behind community issues, how people interact with their communities, and how people behave and act with others within their community. A relatively new discipline, community psychology, is important in understanding community mental health and well-being. 4. Air Force psychologist. What is an Air Force psychologist? An Air Force psychologist is a mental health professional that works with individuals associated with the United States Air Force. This professional will often be a part of an airman's life before, during, and after his military career. One of the main duties of an Air Force psychologist is to evaluate potential airmen before they are allowed to enlist. This evaluation helps the psychologist determine whether or not a potential airman can handle the stresses of an Air Force career. 5. Consumer psychologist. What is a consumer psychologist? Consumer psychologists study and analyze how thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, ideas, and impulses impact people's behavior as consumers. They study how and why people use, buy, and experience certain products, and then they draw psychologically based conclusions surrounding consumer behavior, trends, and patterns. Consumer psychologists often look at factors such as decision-making, impulse control, and social and cultural influences when examining consumer behavior. 6. Educational psychologist. What is an educational psychologist? Educational psychologists have the unenviable job of studying and understanding how people are capable of learning in educational settings, the efficacy of certain educational methods, and the effectiveness of the instructional process. They help identify gifted and disabled learners and try to drill down to the root of the problem in hopes of identifying and treating issues in the early stages. Educational psychologists take a proactive rather than reactive approach to the job and use their research to improve educational experiences for people of all learning styles. 7. Forensic psychologist. What is a forensic psychologist? Forensic psychologists are the intermediaries between the field of psychology and the justice system because they are responsible for applying psychology to the field of justice, criminal investigation, and law. Forensic psychologists are called upon during legal disputes like custody battles, insurance hearings, and other types of lawsuits. They investigate reports, evaluate the behavior of both parties, and determine mental competency of defendants. 8. Health psychologist. What is a health psychologist? By understanding the mental, emotional, and socio-economic factors that might lead to certain illnesses, doctors can also have a better understanding of how to prevent these illnesses. Health psychology also plays a role in helping medical professionals understand the mental and emotional effects of certain illnesses. This not only refers to the effects of certain symptoms on patients, but also the behavioral, social, and economic ramifications that illnesses might have as well. 9. Media psychologist. What is a media psychologist? Media psychology is the intersection between our media-rich society and psychology, and media psychologists are charged with examining and studying that intersection and trying to answer questions. By merging their understanding of human behavior and emotions and how it relates to their use, consumption, and reaction to media, they measure motivations of the content producer, user response to the content, user perceptions and reactions, and research about technological development in order to help better understand how people interact with the media and the technology. 10. Spiritual psychologist. What is a spiritual psychologist? Spiritual psychologists have the job of helping people unlock their spiritual secrets by helping them overcome hidden or subconscious issues and overcome their fears. They help patients evolve spiritually and consciously, and in turn that helps them grow stronger mentally, physically, and emotionally. Spiritual psychologists tap into a patient's emotions and inner psyche to help them feel more content with their lives. Thanks. For more videos, please view, like and subscribe.